Hey again, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I apologize for not uploading timely and consistent material like I thought I was going to do in the past, but when I have something important or relevant to say, I put it up here for all of you to view. Today, I have something very special. I have an anonymous guest. I had about a 2 hour conversation with him about CPTSD, the condition that happens to those of us who have been around a narcissist for any period of time, and the amygdala, or the part of the brain that engages the fight or flight response. And I did some research on this and I didn't find too much on the subject or the correlation between the two. And this fellow puts it together very, very well. I think that you're going to find a lot of value in this conversation. This is one of the times when I really kind of do wish I had more viewers. So if you enjoy this, you're going to want to share this one too. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off here, and well, we'll go to the conversation. All right. Thank you again, and I hope to see you all again real soon. Hey again, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Today, I have a very special guest who wishes to remain anonymous, and for some good reasons. So, anyhow, one of the finest thinkers on our subject of narcissism and what it's like to be narcissistically abused. And our special guest is with us now. Special guest, how are you doing today?
Oh, but I'm doing very good. Got very exciting news and exciting stories to share.
Well, let's get into it. Tell us what's the first of all, what's the news? You have some good news. What news is that?
Yeah, so the really good news is research has been done, and I've come here to help talk about things about the way that these aggressive personalities go about their business and why they think the way they do.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, and so the exciting news is that it's complex PTSD is curable. I'm not making it up. I'm not guessing. I've gone through it myself.
Hmm. And you and I have talked about that too. You and I have had a couple or many private conversations about. I've mentioned on the channel as well when not often, but when I go through the episodes of the complex PTSD, it's almost as if it flips your world completely upside down. Am I right?
That's correct. Yes. Complex PTSD is something that is extremely hard to get over because there's a lot of things involved. And so I've luckily been able to go through a journey and heal from it completely. And, it's one of those things you're not sure about after you go through a lot of narcissistic abuse, if you're ever going to heal from it. But it's possible, guys and girls out there. It's possible to actually be completely healed from it. And I'm speaking from firsthand experience on it.
What do you think that is being on the receiving end of the narcopaths behavior? Do you think that that plays a big? What I'm trying to say, it seems to be rampant. What I'm trying to, I'm stumbling over my words, anonymous guest. But what I'm trying to ask is, don't you think that it's coming somewhere from the top down? Like the narcissist has a proclivity to behave the way they do, but somehow society has, and not all of society, but um, let's say those that are influencing right now, seem to give permission or the go ahead for this kind of behavior. Do you think that there's some correlation?
Yes. Oh, there's absolutely conspiracies afoot, and unfortunately, us as the small people who aren't in charge of big decisions, it's something that we have to think about, and we have to decide what's best for us. They are not working in our best interests. There are powers at play where you literally do have secret rulers who pretend to be victims, but are actually ruling you in secret.
Right, kind of like the narcopath does in your family dynamic.
That's right. You notice in how the narcissist or the narcopath, the ecopath, whatever you want to call them, the aggressor will pretend to be a victim. They will victim mimic their way through life, pretending to be the victim when really they're not. And you'll notice that gives them power, that gives them the social status they're after.
Hmm.
And
Well,
because of
it's two
that,
things.
they're able to do things.
Yeah, it's two things. No, they're a victim, but they're also the hero at the same time. All right.
Yes, that's correct. They want it all. They want all the good status and none of the bad status. And they're going to shift on good status and they're going to shift off anything bad.
Right. The debt shifting. Another friend of mine who termed the term egopath, debt shifting is what they engage in.
Yes, that is correct. There's a lot to talk about regarding get shifting. I've studied it and learned about it, and it gets pretty in depth. And actually, I'd like to cover it if that's okay.
Yeah, or even praise shifting, where they take responsibility for good things that they didn't do.
That is a fantastic point.
I hadn't thought about
Yes.
that till now.
Oh,
Oh, okay, we came up with something new.
yeah,
Good.
oh God, that's exactly on point. Yes. So what you have is they will shift on, they'll take all the credit and then shift off all the blame. So yeah, that's the shifting on, shifting off.
Yes, shift credit to, shift blame away. That's the MO of the narcissist, the ego path.
Yep. And so what happens here is there are many different ways that they shift things off, and they mess with your expectations. They being being what they are, they need to control everyone else's expectations with like impression management and other manipulation tactics, because they know if they lose their victim status and you can reveal that they're actually a wolf in sheep's clothing, they lose it. They absolutely lose it, because then good people are going to put up with that crap.
Right. I'm dealing with one of them presently that I was trying to alert some people. He's just a really bad guy, and he's just adored by many, and he's just a complete POS. And it's you try to expose them, but the comfort campers and the NPCs, they're just not having it, are they?
Exactly. The problem that we're experiencing right now is that there is a lot of this going on and nothing's being done about it. And unfortunately, the bad news that I have for you guys is this has happened in the past before with less civilized societies, and the society collapses because the victim mimic destroys your society, and then nature, the rule of nature, gets to be enforced, which means there's no room for real victims in the wild. You don't have the rabbits suing the wolves. That doesn't happen in the wild. In the wild, if you're a victim, you're either a winner or a loser at the end of the day. There's no room for victim status in the wild.
Hmm.
And
Agreed.
the problem is, yeah, they want to destroy. They're going to, by taking away victim status from the people that deserve it, by causing the crimes and then taking the victim status, what's happening is they destroy good people's trust in the society. Because why would you trust it? Why would you trust it if all you're doing is getting screwed over in the society? So they destroy your society, and then the wild comes in, and then what you have is unfortunately basically massive amounts of death and famine and poverty, and just it's bad. And while the victim mimic can't escape that, the problem is good people are along for the ride that the victim mimic put us all on. Well, so debt shifting, they do a few different ways of doing it, where they can also distract you. So that could be deflection, right? Where if you start asking them questions, they're not going to be held accountable to your questions, and they start going, "Oh, well, have you taken out the garbage?" And all of a sudden they're trying to shift it, and they're trying to change the focus and attention away from them. So it's something to look for, because what they're doing is they're placing debt. They're placing debt on you, and they've
Right.
learned how to do this.
Right now, yeah, I don't know if you've
And
seen all of my videos though, but if you've seen, I actually have video of people doing that on the channel, on the YouTube channel. of
Oh
them changing
well,
this. Yeah,
yeah.
of changing this. I don't know if you've seen it
Well,
or not, but them changing. It's funny. This is Mother's Day, and it happens to actually be my mother. She's deceased now, but I put it out there loud and clear that you can see them shift away from the questions. It's interesting, isn't it?
oh yes, I remember. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that now that we mentioned that. Yes, yeah, it's true. Like it's they do all of this, and you've probably heard of FOGs: the fear, obligation, guilt, pity, or sympathy tripping, where you try a pity pool, or they try to which you could call emotion shifting as well, where they try to shift your emotions, right? They try to throw your mood off. And they're doing it because they're trying to place debt on you, debt for you to pay back to who? To them. It's always about them. You'll find that. You'll find it's about them. They're doing this because they don't want this debt. If they do the bad thing, they don't want to pay the price for it. So they push it. They find all these different ways to do it and shift off their stuff onto you, which is always going to be some form of debt. It's always some form of debt that they're putting on you. And so you might have heard of the term "there's no such thing as a free lunch." And what that comes down to is they're after a free lunch. They do this. They have all these debt shifting tactics, and what they do is they also shift the narrative. You might have noticed a recent global narrative played out where there was a certain medical expert, you could call them, that said, oh, yeah, you don't need to be masked. Oh, but you need to be double masked outside. And that he's the science, and follow the science and trust the science.
Oh boy, oh boy, here we go.
and and all of that, that guy is a bad guy. He was doing terrible things. He's guilty of all of it. He's guilty of shifting in all the ways, shifting expectations, shifting blame, shifting the focus, shifting the narrative, and shifting the roles, shifting
Exactly.
roles. All of a sudden, and he proclaimed that he's a hero who saved millions. He proclaimed this.
Mhm.
So not only is he the science and the hero, and he's a victim of anyone who disagrees with him. That's just like you said, right? It's always the hero or the victim, but never the villain.
But they're
Uh,
actually the villain.
Oh, they're absolutely the villain. They're 100% the villain. And you have Karpman's drama triangle, which kind of covered that, where a person would try and switch roles around, and you'd have your persecutor, you would have the victim, you'd have the supposed hero, and again, that's just the same three things: villain, hero, victim. Same three things, and so they're doing this, and we see the behavior. And now that I've studied it enough, I can tell you that I know how they think. I've studied these predators enough, and I figured out how they think. And so but all of that, that's great. But it's also really good to know that complex PTSD is curable. It's actually curable. I've gone through it firsthand. I'm fully cured from it. And I'm not making this up. It's real. You can be completely cured from it. No matter what these evil fuckers do to you, you can walk away 100%. And that's pretty fucking crazy to think
It
about that.
it is on the personal level, you can go no contact, but on the social level, how would you? I know how I would, but how would you go no contact on the social level before you can heal from the CPTSD? Maybe not watch
That's a
television,
very
maybe not listen to them. Say it again.
That's part of it. It's kind of funny. I never thought I'd be the person to say, turn off your TV. But the reality is, a lot of the news outlets are not doing things the right way. They're doing the narcissist shit game of debt shifting. When they start saying you need to sacrifice, that's a very bad thing. And I've actually covered something, and this gets very interesting, and you're gonna be very interested in this. But this is about expectations, and so the expectations that you have are going to protect you, and they want to erode your expectations. They want to erode your boundaries, your standards. They want to erode all of that, take it away from you, because that's your protection against them.
Hmm. The
And
key
so
word
I'm
on that
going
is
to,
erode. They do it a little bit at a time. It's a gradient. It doesn't. They don't give this to you all at once. That's why it's so hard to detect. It's just a little bit at a time. Erode is definitely the key word in that.
yes, and so the our expectations shape our perspective and they shape our behavior. And the thing is, when your emotions are at play, your emotions are also extremely important. When you're in the right mindset, have the right emotions, you can remember certain things. They try to lock you into a certain emotional state. They try to lock you in to a certain state. And that state is a slave state. They want you to be their slave. And so let's go over all the different things that they try to do to your expectations. Because when you start seeing the kind of gaslighting that they're doing and the ways they go about it, and you start being able to figure out, because a lot of this stuff, chances are, if you've already dealt with these people and you've kind of figured out, hey, I've been attacked by a narcissist, you've probably encountered this. But now it's important to get that. You've seen the data. Now it's time to make sense of it. So let's go over it. A real simple one right off the bat. Are you going to go about destroying your expectations? Devaluing. Devaluing your expectations. Nothing you do is ever good enough. You are to never expect your efforts will ever be enough, but you're expected to pay up all the same. Your grocery shopping wasn't good enough. Guess you have to do it tomorrow as well. Oh, guess you got to pay for more things.
Hmm.
Right?
Right.
Devalue making real brutal, and they're so guilty of that that's literally part of their abuse cycle. Ideal, devalue, discard, hoover. Ideal, devalue, discard, hoover, and it gets faster and faster, and every single time you get less idealization, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And you're dealing with a narcissist. You're dealing with a bad person. So the next thing is invalidating expectations. Invalidating is even worse than devaluing, because invalidating is you get punished for doing a good thing, or you don't get the credit. I'm invalidating your credit. Hey, you just got lucky that you did the right groceries today. You just got lucky. I don't have any complaints, but you got lucky. So there, take that. You did everything I asked perfectly, but you got lucky. That's what they did. So you won't be given credit where credit is due. You are purposely not being evaluated at all. They are invalidating, complete invalidation. Again, these are attack tactics. They are doing this shit to morph your behavior and destroy your expectations. And again, it's about attacking you and controlling you. That's what they're trying to do. They are bad people. The next thing is, and you probably heard this one a lot in the movie industry, subverting expectations. And that's that future faking. Oh yeah, we'll totally live happy together after you don't do this for me. But they don't keep to their word. But you can't accuse them, because that's to accuse them is forbidden. So they subvert your expectations, aka even go back on their word. Anything they promised, it's fake. It's fake. It's a future fake. Oh, so again, and now there's even more, right? How else do they go after expectations? They avert expectations. So averting is a little bit different. Averting is they're prolonging it. They're turtling. So it's a warfare tactic. Turtling means they're withholding things, they're hiding answers from you. They're not letting you, they don't want you to catch on to what they're doing. And you'll notice that that's when they, shift away the subject, right? They subject shift, or, they deflect. They'll start talking about something else. You can't hold them accountable. They're evading responsibility and accountability. And again, they're not telling you the truth, that they're purposely sabotaging your efforts and keeping dark secrets from you. They're not telling you these things. So they're averting expectations because they're not trying to meet your expectations, and they're trying to keep away where you're just stuck in a state where you're expecting, and you're not allowed to stop expecting. You just have to keep expecting. And that's what they did. This is how they trick you and to keep you into lock in. That's what their goal is. Now you also have the another one, shifting expectations. So in this case, shifting expectations again, moving the goalposts, changing priorities. Right now, maybe they realize you're starting to catch on about the groceries, so now they have to do something else. Maybe they'll give you some gifts, right? Maybe they'll beat you for a little bit, and they'll do it. They'll do it to sort of make it seem like they're improving, but they're not. They're just shifting it away. They just want you to now start doing other work for them instead. They're not.
Yeah, the Hoover.
Again, they're not going to
This is
uphold
the
their
Hoover.
end.
Yeah, where they start. Yeah, they'll behave at least on the surface for a while. I don't know how long they can keep it up, but yeah, this is the Hoover is what you're talking about in this.
That's right. And it's funny. It's funny you mention that because it literally, all of it just tied together. They do all of this stuff. They're guilty of all of it. Here's another big one, and this is a massive one. This is very, very important. Sacrificing expectations. Well, sacrificing expectations. It is a massive, massive no-no. Because if they can get you to sacrifice your expectations, they're replacing what you want with what they want. And this is what they want. They like this because now they're the master and you're the slave. So what happens is they're going to go through everything they can, emotional blackmail, coerce the target, give them a free pass. You need to give the abuser a free pass, denying, minimizing, magnifying your faults while minimizing their own, denying any wrongdoing on their part. But of course, you're in complete the wrong, of course. They rationalize and excuse, and that's where their flying monkeys come in to buddy up and go, yes, my flying monkeys agree with me, so you must be the crazy one. Romanticizing. My abuse is actually love. Normalizing. Normalizing is where, this is actually totally normal. It's totally normal to be gaslit. It's totally, if you don't even question it, don't even question what I'm doing. That's what they're doing. And then they have idolizing, where you're supposed to idolize them as some sort of god, right? Instead, you're supposed to sacrifice your expectation that you're equal in the relationship. No, they are your god. Bow down to them. And it's pretty crazy. And you get demonizing, which is generally for you, right? Something about your expectations is so wrong. You're going to hold them accountable. Oh, you're a monster. How could you do this to them? How could you betray them? The whole time it's just whatever. It's all the poison, all their poison they're offering you. It's just poison. If you're sacrificing your expectations to them, they gain control of your decisions, and the decisions that they'll make for you aren't in your best interest at all. And that's another thing. Forgiving and forgetting only enables the manipulator, the abuser, to get away with it and do it again. And that's the sacrificing expectations, and they go for it. They want you to sacrifice for them, and they will just absolutely destroy you from that.
Right. There's one
That's
particular
actually
religion I have in mind when we're talking about this forgiveness thing. And I've cautioned people against forgiving and forgetting, and I've gotten the pushback on that quite a few times. But to me, it seems like they put out, again, we're talking about more of the social or the societal narcissism that's going on, that they want you to continue to forgive, bow to the floor, bow to a wall, or pray to the sky. It's all the same thing. Catching what I'm saying on that?
That's true. And that is one of the worst. It is actually terrible. There's actually so much I can talk about regarding that. I've studied their religion, and now that I know how predators work, a lot of their stories are based on the stories of a predator taking advantage of someone. It really is.
Yes.
And and
The
so
predators
what
who end
happens
up
is
being
the story.
the biggest victims, the predator that ends up being the biggest victim.
That's right. That's exactly it. And so, just before we get to that, because I would love to talk about that, I just want to finish up a few other of the ways they do your expectations wrong. So one of them, which is very much the mimic, they deceive expectations. This is where you're going to perceive that they're going to do something good for you, and then they deceive you. So for example, they plagiarize, right? If someone else does the work, they're going to take credit for it. So they're deceiving you. You might think that they're doing you the job. They have actually just bullied someone else into doing the job for them. They're actually not doing the work. And what's happening is deceiving expectations. You'll notice this when they use you as a battery. for them, and you're doing all this hard work. Guess what? When you're going to the grocery store every day for them, they're taking full credit for it. They're going to their friends and saying that they're the ones that are being worked so hard, and they're the ones who are providing for you. That's what they do. They do this, and they're going around deceiving other people while they screw with your expectations. They're going around trying to boost their own reputation and deceiving other people. They're absolutely doing it. They're so guilty of this. And deceiving expectations is another bad one, because they really are lying to you. They really are. And then you get into some other ones, which is very, very bad. You get into the unfair or impossible standards. It's the you must always please me, and if you can't, you're evil. Or, you treat a child with the standards and responsibilities of an adult, or you treat the scapegoat as always guilty. Impossible standards where it's like, no, you're always guilty no matter what. And they do this. And so these unfair, impossible standards, the problem is this is when they've already kind of got their hooks into you, then they can really start messing with you with these impossible standards. Rules that they're not going to play by. They won't play by those rules because they got their whole scheme going already. They know how to shift all that away with a different thing. And they're not going to be held accountable. And then you have your double standards and hypocrisy, right? Rules for thee, not for me. You got the future faking. You are to expect them to keep their word. That's what you're expecting. But when they don't, you're not allowed to accuse them of that. But you're always guilty of any of their accusations, even though you upheld your word. And then they try to empathy prompt you to trick you into using your empathy. You go, well, you're a good person. So, if you screwed up, would you try and make it better? Yes, I would. But guess what? They don't. And they use their empathy to trick you into thinking that they're on the same level as you are, morally and spiritually. And they're not. They're not even close.
Yeah, because criticizing them becomes illegal, right?
That's right. That's right. And you'll notice that all of these expectation things that they do to tap your expectations, you'll notice one thing is never on the menu: surpassing your expectations. You need to be conditioned. Yes, right. You need to be conditioned to settle for scraps. You need to settle for just the breadcrumbs of the narcissist, which is another tactic, breadcrumbing. Here's a little bit of breadcrumbs here. I haven't abused you as much today. I must be improving just so much. And they're just absolute garbage. They're just garbage.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Good Lord. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. All of these things are meant to lower and eliminate your expectations and standards. It's purposeful, destructive conditioning, and it's them basically. They're trying to be in charge of deciding your expectations, because once they've got your expectations, they've got you. They've got you. And then there's lots of things you can talk about, but expectations are the thing. And so when you have standards, which is non-negotiable expectations, they don't like that. They don't like that. When you go, nope, there's no negotiating here. This is how I do business. This is how I do things. If you don't like the groceries I'm giving, go grocery shopping yourself, putting down a boundary. If you don't like what I'm doing, then you're going to have to do it yourself. Yeah, I'm not the victim. I'm going to do the best I can. But if that's not good enough for you, you have to get up and get it yourself. That's you finding back in. The narcissist doesn't like that. They don't like that one bit.
No, they're lazy by nature,
Yes, well, they have a very parasitic mentality. They are parasites, and parasites are low energy beings. They do not try and go for win-wins. That's work. They want you to work and provide for them. They want you to be the all-giver so that they can be the all-taker, the big parasite. Because the parasite doesn't help the host. It's the host that suffers and dies for the parasite. It is the slave that is to work to death for their master. Well, the master just sits on their fucking ass doing nothing.
Oh, I know. I used to say that the narcopath that I was married, I give you air quotes on that I was married to, that it was a give and take relationship, and that it was I gave and she took.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly what they did. And so all of this debt shifting, a lot of it is to try and condition you and attack your expectations. And what they do, and this gets more into their psyche now, they try to get you to believe in their false dualities. They do something called a false duality, which, and the way this works is, if you're not God, then I know who is God. And by the way, spoiler alert, it's them. They've decided that they're God. This is how they do it. And it seems so silly but they believe this and they want you to believe it too. That's what they're after. So that's why they try and destroy your expectations, because all these expectations of yours are getting in the way of how much of a god they are and how much of a slave you need to be to serve the Lord, them, or the Lordess.
Exactly.
And so
Nailed
so,
it.
so
Nailed it. Yes, sir.
yeah, and the false dualities that they do is very bad. They want you to believe in these things, and so learning what false dualities is, which is, if the whole point of a false duality is, if I know something is true or false, I know the other thing is the opposite of it. For example, in a chess game, I can have an actual duality or a true duality, because if I'm playing you in a chess game and I lose, well, then I know who's won. I know, because if I was playing you in a chess game and I lost the chess game, then I know you've won the chess game. That's a real duality. I can figure that one out. But where it becomes a false duality is when they do these horrible things, which is, hey, if you are hated unconditionally, guess who needs to be loved unconditionally? Yeah, if you're to be hated unconditionally, guess what I'm going to get in return? I'm going to be loved unconditionally. This is what they believe in. This is why they do what they do. And they are delusional. They are delusional. It doesn't make them any less dangerous, but they are delusional in this, and they
Let me
want
ask
you to
you a
believe it.
question. Let me ask the question. Do you think that they are aware of the duality? Do they believe it themselves?
They believe it themselves. The narcissist believes it. The narcissist truly believes that they're God and a victim. Both
Well, that's
God,
why they're so
how
good at it. That's why if you and I tried the same tactics, we would fail. We don't believe it.
that's true. That's true. We actually don't believe that because we know that contradicts, because we base things on logic and reason. We don't base things based on comfort, because here's the way they look at it. Hey, I'm God. That's a comfortable thought. That must be true. Hey, I'm a victim. I'm owed things. Oh, that's a comfortable thought. Yeah, I'm owed things. I'm God who's owed things. They're very comfortable to them. God who's owed things and is a victim. So that's why I'm owed things. So, because if you're such a God, why would anyone need to owe you anything? You could just do it all yourself, right? So, so they do this. They don't question what they have, because they do believe what they are. They believe that they're this amazing God person, and everyone is just so beneath them, and they just can't even understand how brilliant they are. And it's just total delusion. It's total narcissism. It's
Total narcissism and delusion. They're just synonymous. One thing I'm going to just point out before you continue is something that is on our side is new technology. I love having video capability on my phone, and when you can start to record somebody when they start their nonsense. And yeah, I think that's a very good thing to have. Sorry, somebody was trying to break in on a phone call here. Anyway, but the new technology is very beneficial to us because it exposes people's their behavior, and you can show it to the third party. So continue.
That's very true. The problem that we keep facing as a species is we generate a good thing. We know good people generate a good thing. They generate a society. They produce things, and these are gifts for people, for their future generations. But the narcissist does not. The narcissist just takes and takes and takes like a black hole. And so what happens is, and they want to be the great victim of everything and in charge of everything. So what we're starting to see now is, you're starting to see where all of a sudden, in certain corporations, there's no whistleblower protection. The guy that whistleblowed about the Wuhan lab leak, What happened to him the next day? He supposedly died from COVID. Well, supposedly, just pure coincidence, huh? And these things you weren't allowed to even talk about. That the fact that you're not even allowed to talk about these things because again, they don't want you to be able to question these things. You're not allowed to have those expectations to go, hey, I'm allowed to go, hey, that's kind of bullshit there. They don't want you to be able to do that. And so what happens is they destroy your society, and every single time they destroy society, they will get screwed over. But the problem is good people are getting screwed over along for the ride, which I'm not okay with. I'm okay with them paying the price for their evil deeds. I'm not okay with victims paying the price, which is exactly what they want to do. Because the most evil thing about victiminic is that they make it harder to believe the real victims because they're going to paint their victims as victimizers. Because if they want victim status so badly, how can they be a victim if no one's victimizing them? Someone has to be at blame. And so at best they're going to blame something like society, an abstract society. They're just going for victim stuff. They don't have anyone in mind right now to
Right.
blame. So they're just going to blame society.
It's harder to convince someone that they've been fooled than it is to fool them. I don't remember who said that. Right.
Ah, yes, Mark Twain. No.
Did I get that right? I don't know. I think that's maybe a paraphrased quote. I don't know. He said something like that.
It's very close. Yes, it's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled.
Got it. Yep.
That is
That's
the
that's it. That's why we can't. That's why we're trying to expose and wake up the people around so that they are not victims, so that they can get past the CPTSD, so that this societal issue is we can remedy at least for now. I don't know if it'll happen again, but it might be cyclical. I don't know. But at least for now, this is the best we can do.
well. That's just it. Like we do need to plan for future generations. And again, this is only for the people that have CPTSD. I want you to know that it's completely possible to heal. I've done it myself. And there was many days I thought like I'm stuck with this. I don't think there's a cure for this. I haven't read anything about anyone being cured. I've tried looking at things. I've looked at different. I've looked at so many techniques. Even just tried to know when I didn't have any belief in them because it's just like, well, I'll see. But I'm pretty sure this isn't going to work. And no, it didn't work. But like, I'm telling you, it's possible.
I don't want to I don't want to derail your thought process because you're doing so wonderful. The information is so clear and well thought out. But I would like to ask, maybe if you want to address it later or now, either way, what are what's your technique? How did you how did you go and get through the CPTSD? How did you get cured?
You bet. Not and for me, there was a few things that were unfortunately outside of my control. And this is I'm getting the worst news out of the way first. Some things are out of your control. You need time. You need time. And if these fuckers are trying to take your time, you need to get rid of those fuckers one way or another. You have to get rid of them. And that means going no contact, whatever. You need time for yourself. You have to get time on your side. And unfortunately, it just takes time. So you have to be in a good environment, and you have to have time to let the new environment sink in. Let it sink in because and you get all that poison leaching out of you, all that CPTSD. That was all poison that they put, all their betrayals, all their marks of betrayals that they managed to put on you. And then when you're in a good environment and you have time, that alone is going to help a lot. So that's out of the way. So you need that. No matter like you just need a good environment. So you have to get away from the toxic people. You have to get away from them. And there are good people out there. And you just it sucks on every level that you have to basically walk away from. Sometimes you just have to walk away from what you had and what your plans were because they've made it impossible. They've made it
Right, right.
impossible for
Let me
you
get on
to
that.
succeed.
Let me let me support your statement there. I had personally walk away from my entire birth family, all of them, the people that I was supposedly married to. It was actually hard for me to understand when my circumstances changed that there were good people. I didn't trust them for years, and sometimes still don't. When they're not behaving like that, when you're surrounded by egopaths or narcopaths, narcissists, and you fall into the behavior, the reactionary behavior that we have. You don't understand that there are not good people out there. It's like night and day. I've always said, even if it's your last 10 minutes on Earth and you figured this out, it would be worth all of the effort. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I appreciate it. That's excellent insight. And yes, to heal from CPTSD, there was a few things that I found. For me, it was okay. I've gone through the motions. So we usually CPTSD, depending on what you have, you may have, and it's not an emotional flashback or something like that. You literally get teleported to a very scary survival state where you have to survive and something really bad's happening to you. And these states, right? It's very bad because it's basically a psychosis. It's a psychosis where your brain has taken you away from reality, what you're currently doing, and it's taking you away, and you're in the danger zone again with the fucking narcissist, and the fucking narcissist is back, and they're fucking with you, and they got their flying monkeys, and they're fucking with you again. And and then you snap back to reality, but the problem is that's gonna fucking ruin your day. And you get scared because you're like, I have no control over when this happens. And so it's very scary when you're in that position. And you have to have been fucked with very badly to have CPTSD that severe. But I want you to know I've had very severe CPTSD and I've been cured from it. I'm actually fucking cured. And so what I found is my mental state was very locked in, and it was very difficult to say, where am I right now? Right now, I'm at home. I'm at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, are the bad people around? No. It's like I'm at home. Things are good. I've got my life under control, and I've got good things happening. I'm surrounded by people that care about me. I'm surrounded, I've got a dog that I love, that kind of thing. And those things to help ground you back into reality is very important.
That is exactly what I have to do sometimes, even today, where where you're because I still get the episodes where the CPTSD just rears its ugly head. It'll be triggered usually by, actually, you know what? I was going to tell you, usually by the person showing up, but sometimes it's just out of the blue. You don't even know why. And as I take an inventory of reality, I look at this and things are much different than I'm feeling like they are. So I know I'm not in reality.
Yes,
True.
and the thing is, what this episode happens, right? When these episodes happen, or these attacks, or whatever you want to call them, or cyclonic breaks from reality, whatever we want to call them, because it's very unpleasant. It's not something that you want, and it's not something that it's like a reflex, basically. It's like all of a sudden, wait, it just happens. And the problem there is I was not okay with that because, well, I could maybe get over it, after a few hours. The problem is it's like, well, when's the next one going to happen? When's the next freaking thing happen here? And the problem is it was very, very severe for me, very severe. And luckily I was able to get through it by, again, grounding yourself in reality. Because for me, I found it like quicksand. I found that it was like falling through quicksand. The floor beneath you was gone. There was no stability. You're just going down, straight down. And it's not a good feeling. If you've ever fallen and you get that feeling when you're falling, right? That's like what happens if you've never stepped into quicksand. You just get the same feeling of falling, and nothing is stable underneath you. Nothing's stable. And
Yeah.
that was very
Thanks to
scary.
the narcissist. This is what they do. This is the shit that they do. This is the stuff that we've been talking about. Isn't that wonderful?
You get exactly. And the problem is these fuckers, if they had any empathy at all, and they were actually supposedly suffering like we're suffering, they wouldn't ever do this horrible shit to anyone else. They wouldn't. They do this shit because they want control of you. And if they can't control you, they want you dead. But yes, the part of the problem that we're dealing with is just the fact that we have to be aware of this, and we can save ourselves. And that's something that you should really focus on. If you have complex PTSD, Yes, yes, you want to help others, but you have to protect yourself. You have to focus on yourself and prioritize yourself. It's very important. And so I want to talk about a few things that you need to look out for, because there are ways that the victim Nick will try and trick you into following their way of thinking. And their way of thinking is a complete scam. And they'll mess with you, unfortunately. And so let's go over a bit of dead shifting. You've probably heard of moving the goalposts or shifting the goalposts.
Yes.
This is where they're trying to change your priorities. If your priority was to get groceries, but all of a sudden now they want you to drop everything, don't get groceries, but now you have to go and go to like a concert or something. And it's like, but no, I'm out there, I'm getting groceries, and they're doing this where they're trying to force you to change your behavior and interrupt your patterns of behavior, interrupt your agency, and that they want to be able to priority shift where whenever they want, they don't have to live up to their end of the bargain. And that's very important. You'll notice that the priority shifting is going to happen. They get a little bit from you, and then they start shifting priorities so they don't have to pay into it. Because you
Hmm.
might catch on.
I've heard that
Yeah,
called
you might catch on.
yeah, I've heard that called future faking is the term that I heard when I first started to research this issue. Is they tell you they're going to do something so that they get you to uh, reciprocate before they've even put their put their whatever the behavior they're supposed to do in the ring. They get you to do something first, then they never ever then they don't reciprocate in the end.
Yes, exactly. It leads into that. All of this debt shifting can lead into each other. So there's a few different types. I mean, there's different ways that they use it. They can debt shift away responsibility, meaning, hey, it's your job to get the groceries today when you were expecting it to be on a schedule. Right? You expect it to be 50-50, but all of a sudden now they're passing the buck and they're shifting the responsibility and they're not pulling their weight. You also have accountability shifting, which is the other end of it. So maybe they did a bad thing, and now you're supposed to go and take the blame for it, right? Either the scapegoating, the blame shifting, right? Who's to blame? And all of a sudden, accountability is, well, it's not my fault that, you don't have time anymore to get the groceries or something like that. They do this, and all of it, it's always shifting the blame and shifting the bad credit off of them and then putting it onto you. It's very interesting when we get to all the different problems that we're getting from the narcissist. So the last thing I was talking about was, let's talk about the Abrahamic God, because the Abrahamic God is a perfect example of a group of narcissists coming together and creating the ultimate narcissist God. That's literally what it is. So let's talk about the story of Job. The story of Job, you might have heard it. It's basically where some guy, God takes away everything from him, but he's still so loyal to God, and God eventually rewards him with a new family, not the one he killed, but a new family. And so this sounds, it sounds kind of psychopathic, but it's so much worse than that. It's not just psychopathic. You see, so a lot of people get stuck on the why. They get to out of the 5 questions you can ask: who, what, when, where, and why. They get stuck on the why. Like, why would God do such a terrible thing just to prove a point to Satan? But you're then missing the point here. The story was based off of a pimp who killed his old hookers to then claim his rival's hookers and get rid of his rival. 2 birds with 1 stone. He gets rid of his old hookers and he kills he legs on his rival so that his rival gets killed and he gets the new hookers. And it's based off of.
That is hilarious gold. I don't think I've heard that take on the story. I know the story, but continue. That's good. Good.
It's amazing. And so because I studied pimping. I actually studied it. I studied it from a pimp named Gunplay, who is an absolute narcissist. And he was talking about how he goes about, controlling his hoes and keeping his hoes in line and keeping them giving all their money to him, to the pimp, who's going to just
Who is this? Hold on. Who did you study? Who is this?
the pimp named Gunplay, an actual pimp named Gunplay, and it's on YouTube. And Gunplay the pimp, he realized Gunplay was kind of a bad nickname when the police showed up, because all they heard was Gunplay and not that being his name. So the police showed up with guns pointed at him and stuff. So Gunplay wasn't the best name.
Gunplay is Job.
Well,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
it's true. That's it. So what happens is in the story, you'll notice that the victim because they want victim status so badly. You'll notice in the story of Job, right? It's like he keeps being a victim. He keeps being a victim, right? The asteroids come down and wipe out his livestock. His family's killed. His buildings are killed. He gets boils and sores on him. He's just such a victim, and God did it all to him. And he's just such a victim. But he keeps being a nice codependent fool and a slave to the evil narcissist. And then what happens is that he's rewarded. And there's actually a story called The Giving Tree. And the giving tree is a story of a tree that keeps giving and giving and giving to this child. And as the child grows older, the child literally cuts down the tree for money, just destroys the tree. The tree's just a stump. And then he's old. And then he's just like, yeah, you still want me, tree? And the tree's like, oh, yes, please sit on me. Please make me useful. Well, I'm a good little slave. And then the old man sits on top of the tree stump like, oh, yeah. And it's like, holy shit. And that's what they want. They want you to be the giving tree. They want you to be it. So what the story of Job is he's saying how much of a victim he is. But look, he was rewarded. You could be rewarded too if God fucks you over again and again and again. And that's the same thing with an abuser. The abuser, oh yeah, even if I fuck you over again and again and again, I'll eventually reward you. So stick around. Stay tuned. So what happens is that the real story of Job behind all the bullshit is he was a pimp. His hookers were old. He had some higher up friends, the little pimp lord, the king pimp, you could call them, who they give their money to because they're the ones really in charge of things, and they're just employed as a pimp. Really, they have a position. They're like a manager in a store of a food chain. There's actually bigger fish to fry. The head mafia guys type of thing, and so you have an organized crime syndicate. So this pimp realized that he will screw over his rival, get rid of his rival, and then he'll get the new hookers. And that's his new family, the new family of hookers. Because pimps just see how much you're earning. The pimps don't care about the actual hookers. That's why Job had absolutely no problem with, hey, I'll kill your old family. Here's a new family for you. That's why. Because it wasn't an actual family of children. It was just a bunch of hookers that he was in charge of, and was collecting debt. And they were getting old, and they weren't earning as much. And his rival was up and comer, and so he fucked over his rival by killing his own hookers, blaming it on the rival, getting the rival either killed or evicted or whatever, and stole that rival's hookers for his own. And then you work for me now. That's the entire story of Job. That's what it really was. So there's some other stories as well. Another one is Isaac, right? The story of Abraham gonna kill his son Isaac. Well, all that is about conditioning you to obey your elders, obey the leaders in charge, your religious leaders, and kill them. When times get tough, who needs to starve to death? Your children, or the religious leaders? Well, it's time to let your children starve. You got to sacrifice for God, and give them lots of food. And that's where that came from. So that's why the whole, God wants you to prove his love, prove your love to God. And all of it is just a loyalty test so that the sheep will basically follow and obey. And it's scary because even in the Bible, you are literally considered a flock of sheep. You could say the shepherd, the Lord's flock, the Lord will be your shepherd, and you'll be just a sheep. And it's not good because the sheep in the long run is either getting fleeced or fucked by the shepherd. So, it's not good. What happens is all of these religious things, when you really delve into it, yeah, there was meant to be some good stories behind it, but the problem is a lot of the stuff was based off of the narcissist's own plight and how do they get people to agree with their bullshit, to agree that their behavior is okay. And so they do it through these covert means. And that's why God is one of the biggest sock puppets. Because here's the thing, right? Scapegoating. One of the biggest disgusting things you can do is blame someone else for your own crimes. That's one of them. That's considered morally unacceptable. It's considered morally wrong to do, especially to an innocent person, right? Because that's the definition of a scapegoat. The scapegoat didn't do anything, but you're going to blame the scapegoat and punish the scapegoat. Don't punish the person that actually did it, right? Hence the whipping boy. In the old days, the whipping boy. Like, oh, the prince did something wrong. Fetch the whipping boy. And so then everyone stands around and watches as the whipping boy gets whipped and then go, did you learn your lesson, you little sadistic piece of shit? But no, because the prince likes it. The prince is a sadistic piece of shit who enjoys control. And anytime he behaves badly, he knows he could fuck you over. He doesn't feel bad about an innocent person getting fucked over. He feels powerful. And that's the narcissist. The narcissist loves to fuck over other people. So with scapegoating or even just with the small hats and their chicken ritual where they murder a chicken and swing it over their head, and because now that I've done that, God forgives me. And so if God forgives me, you can't. Oh, how could you? God forgives me now that I fucked you over, and now I'm gonna swing a chicken above my fucking head, and now God forgives me. So you can't hold now. Now the real problem's you. That's what they do, and a lot of these things. And there's been some scary things in the past where, for example, the marry your rapist law, that's a very scary thing where, it's not the rapist behavior that's the problem. It's really your attitude. It's the victim's attitude. If you had consented to the rapist, well, I wouldn't have been raped in the first place. So really, you should marry your rapist, and then you'll really learn your lesson. It's like, that's what they do. They do this shit, and they're absolutely not the victim. The rapist is made out to be the one that's like, oh, my poor rapist, look up, how about the punished? The rapist is not, and he must marry his rape victim. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Good points, all the points, and so well put, and bordering on taboo topics, but we'll address that as well. What if you could kind of wrap up your ideas? What maybe we could close out here in a little bit. Can you kind of give us a summary of what we've been chatting about?
Yeah, that to wrap it up, we talked about debt shifting, and debt shifting is the way that they go about. They're trying to place debt on you, and one of the worst things that we can talk about this yet, but collective debt, which is the victim mimic's biggest scam in history, collective debt, and that's where it all comes together. We talked about scapegoating, but now we're talking about scapegoating on a massive level. We're talking about, well, the criminal did something bad. I guess we have to confiscate everyone's guns.
Well,
The criminal used to gun.
you touched on it at the end there. Yeah, you're touching on it. I think we can put those two together even now on the massive scale with what you're talking about.
That's right. And so collective debt is where it gets worse. That's the scapegoating on steroids, because you're not just scapegoating one person. You're deciding to scapegoat everyone, right? Everyone's to blame for the criminal's behavior. It's just completely insane. There's nothing moral about it. It's just truly evil. So understand this: collective debt is slavery in disguise. Collective debt is slavery in disguise. And They're all about that. The narcissist is all about putting debt on you, and collective debt where you don't realize that you're being enslaved and it works. Well, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna do collective debt. So once you understand that, and you understand it on the individual level, then you start understanding. Well, you could start spotting collective debt like original sin. Original sin is one of the oldest collective debts, because that it reasons that you must obey me. You were born, and now you must obey me in order to right the wrong of being born. And so that we can get into that. Actually, even Ayn Rand actually talked about that. I'll wrap it up with a quote from Ayn Rand. How's that? The name of this monstrous absurdity is original sin. A sin without volition is a flap at morality and an insolent contradiction in terms. That which is outside the possibility of choice is outside the province of morality. If man is evil by birth, he has no will, no power to change it. If he has no will, he can be neither good nor evil. A robot is immoral. To hold, as man's sin, a fact not open to this choice is a mockery of morality. To hold man's nature as his sin is a mockery of nature. To punish him for a crime he committed before he was born is a mockery of justice. To hold him guilty in a matter where no innocence exists is a mockery of reason. To destroy morality, nature, justice, and reason by means of a single concept is a feat of evil hardly to be matched. Yet that is the root of their code. Do not hide behind the cowardly evasion that man is born with free will, but with a tendency to evil. A free will saddled with a tendency is like a game with loaded dice. It forces man to struggle through the effort of playing, to bear responsibility, and pay for the game. But the decision is weighted in favor of a tendency that he had no power to escape. If the tendency is of his choice, he cannot possess it at both. If it is not of his choice, his will is not free. What is the nature of the guilt that your teachers call his original sin? What are the evils man acquired when he fell from a state they considered perfection? Their myth declares he that he ate the fruit of the tree of knowledge. He acquired a mind and became a rational thinking being. It was the knowledge of good and evil. He became a moral being. He was sentenced to earn his bread by his labor. He became a productive being. He was sentenced to experience desire. He acquired the capacity of sexual enjoyment. The evils for which they damn him are reason, morality, creativeness, joy, all the cardinal values of his existence. Is not his vices that their myth of man falls, is designed to explain and condemn. Is not his errors that they hold as his guilt, but the essence of his nature as man. Whenever he was that robot in the Garden of Eden, who existed without mind, without values, without labor, without love, he was not man. Man's fall, according to your teachers, was that he gained the virtues required to live. These virtues, by their standard, are his sin. His evil, they charge, is that he's man. His guilt, they charge, is that he lives. Well,
Wow. There is nothing more crystal clear. Where's that from?
that is from Ayn Rand for the New Intellectual, a book she wrote around 1958.
That is unbelievable, crystal clear. It sums up entirely everything that you just laid out for us. So, wow, unbelievable. I want to thank you for sharing this with us. It's really very important, and I'm going to talk a little bit to the folks that are still following me, if there is any. It's actually just diminished to a point where I'm not certain if I can continue to put out material. But this one is so important that I think that we're going to see if we can't utilize it in some other ways besides just the YouTube channel. So anyway, well, Mr. Anonymous, I sure appreciate your time and your effort. Excellent work as always, and I hope to have you on again real soon.
Saying